next is our panel, Show Me the Money, Recent Trends in Social Gaming, Digital Marketing and Predictive Analytics. And first of all, I would like to introduce you to our great panelists today, starting off with Alex Cohen. Alex, we met before on the iGaming Forum. You're CPO of Akamon Entertainment. Welcome, Alex. Next is Ilana Jucha, CEO and co-founder of Stat Markets. Ilona. Then we have Jonathan Doten, Vice President of Inbound Marketing from Yellowhead. And Rami Segal, Managing Director of Dragon Play. Rami, welcome on stage. Please have a seat. Alex, you were holding a very interesting presentation on the iGaming Forum in Stockholm a couple of weeks ago, which I think is a great introduction to our topic today. So please, you have the microphone for the next couple of minutes.
Let's see. Okay, so I'll try to keep this to 5 minutes. I condensed it down from a 20-minute presentation, so hopefully I'll keep under that. Okay, so, am I connected here?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So first of all, an introduction. Who's Akamon and who am I? Akamon, we're a top 20 social casino company focused on the Latin American and Southern European markets. So a bit of a geographical specialization there, whereas most of the companies in the industry are focusing on the US or focusing on a broader global market. Our core products are slots, bingo, video bingo, which is a specialty product for Latin America, and a number of other games that are focused on user acquisition or user retention. And we have multi-platform deployment to Facebook, mobile, and portal. About myself, I'm Chief Product Officer at Akamon. I've been here for about a year. Before that, I was at Quickspin, a small Swedish slot studio, for about 2 years. So I did my time in the Stockholm winters and then decided to move to the sun in Barcelona. Before that, I spent 7 years as a game designer at IGT. So basically 10 years of combined experience making slots. So I think that we had a couple of good presentations to the social casino industry as a whole earlier, but just to recap a bit, overall it's about a $3 billion industry in terms of annual revenue. The growth rate is about 30% annually. The majority of that is growth on mobile. The products that are present in social casino are primarily poker, slots, and bingo. There are a few other products, a few geographic specialties, or a few ancillary products, but for the most part, it's slots that generates the most revenue and poker that has the most volume, and then bingo is somewhere in between. The industry has crossed the threshold to be over 50% mobile right now. And in terms of the slot content that's available, it's very similar to RMG content. So I think that it's a bit confusing to people who come from the real money industry to be looking at social casino and wondering, why would somebody be spending real money to play with fake chips and not win anything? The motivations, you can debate about them quite a bit, whether it's Pavlovian with people who are used to real money slots, but either way, it's that the games are fun. And there's quite a lot that's engaging in terms of an individual slot game or in terms of an individual bingo game that makes it entertaining to play by itself, whether or not there's real money at stake. And even so, with the aspect of having virtual chips involved, there is some risk and reward element to it as well. There's also, in most of the markets that social casino is prevalent, a large exposure to RMG land-based content. So when you look at the US, for example, in Europe, in Latin America, you see a large crossover between players who are used to land-based content and people who are playing in social casinos. And so in some way, they're playing the games that they're familiar with. There's also the aspect that winning with fake chips feels a lot like winning with real money. And so you get the same type of risk and reward cycle that's involved that you would have whether or not real money is at stake. Just going through some similarities and differences with real money gambling content. In general, a good social slot is similar to a good real money slot. That you see a lot of crossover in individual titles that are popular in land-based casinos, in other real money venues that are popular online. And there's also a style of games that players are used to or that just simply work and have proven effective. And they prove effective either in a real money context or in a social context. In terms of Akamon's specialty, which is local products specialized on Latin America, we do also see that there's a lot of crossover, for example, in our video bingo product, which is given as an example here, that players who are used to real money video bingo content, either land-based or online, cross over to be playing video bingo content in a social environment. In terms of marketing, as far as what's similar between the two environments, in both of them are largely about trying to acquire and then retain high-value users and not devote disproportionate effort to those users that are not high value. But there are some significant differences that are worthwhile to keep in mind. That by and large, in terms of the content that works in a real money environment that does not work in social, we see that blackjack and sportsbook and some others have never really picked up as a standalone product. In Akamon, we have a blackjack game that's present in our portal environment that works well to complement other games, but as a standalone product, it's not really that effective. And the same goes for roulette. And there have been a few experiments into sportsbook that have been standalone products that nobody's really cracked that nut yet. There's also a lot more in terms of gamification in social environments than you would see necessarily in real money. So for example, having missions, having leveling, having some sort of reward that's beyond just financial to players is critical in a social game. There's also some very significant differences in terms of marketing, that the acquisition methods are completely different. Whereas in real money, you have large established affiliate networks. In social, you don't really have that so much yet. The demographics are also different in a critical way that reflects the land-based shift and the market shift in the US, which is that social is predominantly female and predominantly over 50, which is a bit at odds with the demographics that you typically see from real money casinos. We also see that the balance between cost of acquisition and lifetime value is extremely different on social. That whereas you might be talking about a high-value user in real money being someone who spends $10,000 or $50,000 a month on your platform, in social it would be in the hundreds of dollars. And so that's a quick summary, and we'll shift over to the panel.
Great, thank you. I just took your seat, I hope.
Oh.
Is it okay if you sit there?
Do you want the mic? Oh.
That's fine. Perfect, thank you, Alex. We heard in Melissa's presentation before, I don't know if you were there or all of you were there, but we heard before that social gaming makes 20 times more money than real money gaming in the US. What can you say to the Latin American markets and the Southern Europe markets?
Right now, let's see, going back to Playtika's presentation, the social market in Latin America was, I believe, about 500 million right now in terms of revenue. In terms of land-based, I'm not aware of any statistics that measure that for land-based, but for online, I would say that social is much more significant than online real money gambling. It's largely because most of the markets in Latin America are closed, that the only one that has regulation in place is Mexico. And so when you look at markets like Brazil, it's a market that is very familiar with gambling products such as video bingo, which we're rolling out in a social environment. But they've had bingo halls closed, and there's not much movement in terms of online regulation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How does it look in Israel right now, the Israeli market? Rami, maybe you want to. How does it look in the Israeli market, the social gaming patterns that, what the difference between the real money and the social gaming?
Yeah, so Dragonplay is one of the leading Israeli social gaming companies. Mm-hmm. We started in five years ago with a social poker product. That was the first product in Android, followed by slots and bingo. And then again, the success of Dragonplay is contributed much to the UIJA law, and to the fact that real money gaming was prohibited in the States. So that created the landscape for social gaming to succeed in general. 5 years ago, after today, we were acquired by Bally Technologies, which is a manufacturer of slot machines. I think we are one of the only companies that were acquired twice. So it was first by a company that didn't have anything to do with the social gaming space, and it was expecting us to take the content, the real money gaming content, and bring it to the social. And the second time was when Scientific Games acquired Bally, and Scientific was one of the largest players in the social space. But we are still doing the same task and still trying to bring the branded real money gaming, real money slots to social.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to address other markets as well, since we're sort of international here on the stage. Let's talk a bit about Asia and, for example, as well Africa, since we have a high mobile penetration there. What can you say of the trends there regarding social gaming?
There's not really much of a trend in terms of social gaming in Africa as a high-value market for casinos. You could see markets such as South Africa start to emerge where there's a large land-based gaming presence, but then South Africa by itself is not very large. Regardless of what smartphone penetration statistics say, it really comes down to the value of those individual users. That you can have a smartphone user who's, for example, an Android user, they could be using a $700 Nexus machine, or they could be using a $50 cheap Chinese device.
When we talk about the consumers or the players, there are certain statistics that show that if you're involved in social gaming, it leads to increased participation in real money gaming. What can you say about that?
Say that that's very good for land-based businesses.
That's true. One major trend as well, and Rami, that question goes to you, is the connection of digital and real worlds. How does that impact social games and the strategy of...
we try to do cross-promotions between online gaming, real money gaming, to social, and it didn't work at all, actually. The conversion was very low. But what we're seeing today, and I agree with the other presentation that mentioned that, is that there is a strong connection between the brands that we see on the real casinos and the social space. We actually interviewed people on the floor, on the casino floor, and they are more affiliated with the brands that we introduce on the social apps, especially slots. That goes especially to slots. And we also see that it's not only the brand of the slots, but also branded content like it could be celebrities, superheroes, TV shows, things that users are affiliated with and are very common on the casino floor. That creates the better relations between social and the physical world.
The connection of digital and real worlds is as well appealing on, of course, digital marketing. Jonathan. Yellowhead is providing some of the big operators with marketing solutions, for example, 888. What can you say? I mean, digitalization is in everyone's mouth. At the same time, it's a very impulsive and erratic trend. So what do you think, what kind of trends are we seeking when we look onto 2015 and the next years?
Well, thinking about it from a marketing perspective, I think that we're seeing things get more sophisticated and at the same time also more holistic. You know, again, we are working with Zynga, with Playtika, actually with Dragonplay as well, on many other major publishers. And I think that on the digital side of things, up until now, things have been pretty narrow and tactical. For the most part, publishers have been looking at paid acquisition, maybe burst campaigns, and that's been, you know, kind of 95% of the focus. You know, moving forward, the markets are getting more competitive, algorithms are getting more complex, and even, you know, the year of the mobile is kind of old news by now. And in that kind of new space, we're seeing a lot of things changing. That kind of narrow tactical outlook isn't enough. So I'll give you know, a few specific examples from there. First of all, working with a lot of those major publishers, one of the things that we've seen is kind of the end of burst campaigns. They're more tactical, they're getting harder to use, they're against App Store policy in certain stores, and so that's kind of ending. We're seeing more and more publishers waking up to the worlds of App Store optimization. You know, we've worked with clients that have seen anywhere from 20 to 200% increases in that field, and so it's getting to be one that's difficult to ignore, and it's kind of tying into everything else. Any way that you can help increase your conversion decreases CPIs, decreases everything else. With things like app indexation, deep linking, we're starting to also see a move back towards a kind of a resurgence of good old web SEO for those realms as well. And then finally, talking about the digitization and mobile and all of that. Mobile is, you know, it's obvious, it's a fact, but now things are becoming really cross-platform. One user might be playing a game on his Samsung Galaxy and on his iPad and on his computer. And so I think we're seeing a shift of companies looking a little bit more 360 degrees at kind of all of those, at both their efforts and the ROI across all of those channels together. So in short, less narrow, less tactical, more strategic, more holistic.
What do you think, what kind of big marketing opportunities are the publishers currently missing out on?
Well, I say there's two that I can think of that are kind of quick wins that we've been seeing lately. The first one, also in the world of apps, is localization. Again, I'll also reference what Elad from Politica said, and I think it's interesting. We do have a very international panel, but today the U.S. is just a small percentage of an enormous market. The world's a huge place, and we get a lot of comments from publishers, mostly smaller publishers that we start working with, who say, "Oh well, the U.S. is all that really interests me. My app is only in English. I'll focus on the other things later." And I can't emphasize how wrong that is, and how big of an opportunity the rest of the world is. We recently worked with an app. We did ASO. We did localization. From our work, they saw about a 30% increase in the U.S., which was great. But they also saw something like a 200% increase in over 20 different languages and countries across the world. And that kind of thing is huge. The world is a huge market there, and it's a shame to be missing. Another thing, and this also ties into what Alex was saying about retention and about how users or how companies are trying to keep users engaged. I think that an opportunity that we still have to see more in the world of gaming is social. So most apps have social today. Most gaming apps, especially, they have some kind of social sharing. They have gamification. They have whatever else. But I think that those things are kind of only scratching the surface. There's a company that we've been working with recently. They have a major game. Without any influence of the company, users of that game had created over 240 separate Facebook groups, fan groups about the game. And all these groups kind of had none of the company's involvement. I'll give a little example before I explain. An example from the real world. Let's say somebody starts a yoga class. They get there and it's thrilling. They're doing something new. They're learning more stuff. They meet some new people. Over time, they start learning new skills. They start getting better. That's kind of the content, the promotions that everybody is always pushing. But in the end of the day, the ones that stay there for years and not for months are the ones that built a group of friends. And you can kind of do the same thing with applications. So with that company that we worked with, we started a group for the fans, sponsored by the company, brought in tens of thousands of users of the game into that. Engagement rates were crazy, the use was crazy, and you say, okay, well, that's all great. What does it matter to the company? After a few months, we compared lifetime value, we compared churn rate from those users to a control group, and we saw that lifetime value had skyrocketed, churn rate had dropped, and so social is out there, it exists, and I think that it's an opportunity that's being missed. So there, localization and social.
Ilana, you haven't had the word so far. Would you like to present yourself quick and maybe comment on that?
I'm actually dealing with customer science, and all that what has been said about lifetime value and retention and churn rates, etc. I'm looking at this in different perspectives because I'm not looking backwards and trying to look forwards. And in our world, there is a big hype and buzz about big data and predictive analytics. And what I see actually in practice that is happening even in the best companies, use of descriptive analytics. The guy from ServiceWise just shown us a great example how descriptive analytics could be used. However, I would like to see people moving from descriptive to diagnostic. And diagnostic is, okay, what's the root cause analysis of what has happened, and et cetera, and triggering, right, real-time events. If someone did something, I want to know what he did. But the word should be going, in my view, to the predictive analytics. Wouldn't it be nice to understand what is going to be the lifetime value of a certain player before he ended his life with us? And what should be the right action to actually move a customer to the direction we want him to behave, rather than predicting what he is going to do. And all of those things could be done. And I don't know actually any company, and maybe it's me, that is really working in the wide spectrum of what could be done with the technology and the best practices in this area.
That's interesting. Alex, maybe you want to comment on that as we are from our operator. We have, by the way, a lot of micros here, so you don't have to reach over.
Well, I think that in terms of predictive analytics in social casino or in social gaming as a whole, there's a wide space for improvement. And there are some very basic things that can be done early on that are still a bit primitive to detect if a user is going to turn into someone who's going to be highly engaged, and then from there detect if someone is going to be someone that could evolve into someone with high lifetime value. So I think that the key for startup companies, if you've only got 5 people on your team and the analytics role is shared between one or two people, it's important to be able to figure out what has high value that is a methodology to use that's still very basic to implement. And I think that there's a lot of space there that if the industry becomes better at as a whole, then the environment will become much more competitive and very good for the people that have evolved that skill.
Mm.
Yeah, we look at the app economy in 4 different levels. It's acquisition, retention, engagement, and monetization. Those are the 4 pillars, let's say, of the app economy. And we've really drilled down to each one of those processes to refine them and optimize, and make sure that in every step of the way, the player actually meets a certain set of KPIs, which means that the secondary retention, 7-day retention, the percentage of active players, the number of spin they do in the slot reaches a certain level. And if they don't reach that level, so what do we need to do in order to get them to that level? And this is a very manual process, a lot of A/B testing, a lot of things that are data-driven, actually, with many analysts looking at the data. But once you get this done, then I think the next step would be some kind of marketing automation, which knows exactly for each segment of users what type of experience to create in the game. If they need like a more volatile machine, they like to see big wins on a low frequency, or a lot of many wins all the time. Would that bring them to the next level? Would that engage them more and get them like a higher lifetime value? So it's a question of looking at the app economy through those pillars, understand the data, analyze the data, try to automate the processes, and get the right message to the right segments.
Let me comment on that. The right message to the right segments is, this word is being used in every single industry and everywhere. But how do you get to this right? That exactly is the point. And you said data-driven. And from my perspective, data-driven means, okay, if I send an email to someone and I send, "Dear Ilana," you can claim that it's personalized and it's relevant. Is it good enough? I wouldn't say so, okay? And the point is that by using really the predictive methodology on all this machine learning, statistical learning, all the buzzwords that you have been listening to, but I'm not sure we have been practicing, you can actually reach to the point that you don't work on the segment level, but you do work on the individual level. That you change your mathematical configuration of your games once, what is optimal payout, and the creative characteristics of your game, right? The optimal one, and it's not enough. It's a product perspective. Now, from shaping the behavior of your player, you can actually target him to the target that you want him to reach. If you know the persona, his predicted lifetime value, his possible churn, his next action that he might do, then you can actually optimize your promotion and to provide him at the right moment, at the predicted event, the optimal, let's say, virtual chips that he wants to consume, okay? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of what can be done in this area, and I wish people would be more open and see what could be done and start doing it.
But what do you think? Is it simply a matter of attitude, or, I mean, we have the technology, we have the knowledge to a certain extent. What do you think is companies holding back?
Let me say that the gaming industry is still quite savvy. And regardless of the high competitive landscape of this industry, there is not enough pain, which exists, for example, in other industries, okay? That we are working at. For example, in telecom business, it's a nightmare, it's a war. So the predictive analytics in those areas are being used much more broadly, okay?
Well, I think in social casino, at least, Rami can comment on this as well, but it is a war. I think that the holy grail is to know as soon as someone drops into your application if they're likely to be a paying user and be able to handle them appropriately and devote your marketing or CRM effort disproportionately to that type of user as opposed to the broader audience. It's just a matter of getting to that point. So I think we definitely feel that pain. I think in the real money side, it's something that does feel quite a lot of pain as well. But then when you're talking about conversion to payer rates that are closer to 60 or 70% as opposed to 2 or 3%, then it's a different world.
Yeah, I think one of the barriers to enter this, it's a lack of knowledge of the executive team, of the decision makers, lack of the right data. People don't have the right data warehouses in their place, and I see it again and again and again. I see companies that just finished to build their data warehouse, and when I come and say what could be done, say, oh, we need to redo it. And another one is, as I said, workflow processes within the organizations, to automate all these processes, not to do it manually. It's one of the key barriers to succeed.
I already get numbers to that. We have only 3 minutes left. So final question. What do you think, what are the main pillars to turn actually data into actionable profitability?
Okay. Main pillars. Executives taking care of what's going to happen with their data. It's actually the key. It's not to be the friend of your data. It's to think that this is my business.
It's good that we have these conferences then, right, for the executives. And
okay. A second one is really to, when building your data gathering processes, advise company like us maybe to what should be gathered and on what. And then to automate is a predictive analytics processes, not to count on data scientists that manually unlock the data.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not a big fan of sales pitches on stage, but I think it's a kind of good thing. I'm a fan of elevator pitches. So I would like to give you all the opportunity to, and remember the elevator is a short ride, to tell me and our audience here, why Acumen, why Yellowhead, why is Yellowhead so special, why Dragonplay, and why is that market? Do you want to start?
Me? Wow. Start market shapes customer behavior by predicting what might we have to do in order to bring our customer to maximize his lifetime value.
That's a short elevator. Okay, please.
Well, we are now part of Scientific Games, so Scientific Games Interactive will become the third largest social gaming company in the world, and we will give you the real experience on your and the best entertainment on your social apps.
We work with the third largest social gaming app. So Yellowhead, we're a performance marketing agency. We do search engine optimization, PPC, ASO for major international companies. the truth is there are, 1,000, 100,000 other agencies that do SEO, that do PPC, and there are even a few in the audience that do ASO. I think that our difference comes, honestly, first of all, from our people. We have, and they can all testify to our grueling hiring process. And second of all, everything that we do, we really come from a data and research first perspective. When we started with our ASO team, we didn't get any account managers. We got researchers to start looking into the algorithms, to start running tests, to start seeing how things work, and really we hold ourselves to a very high standard.
Thank you. Alex?
Let's see, in terms of Akamon, we're the specialist providing high quality product to Latin American and Southern European markets in social casino. And we have the team to be able to make the best quality applicable product to those markets that's specialized towards that. And we have the marketing customer support that's best tuned to those markets.
Great. Now we should be in the top floor, and we're going to have a networking lunch break afterwards. So thank you to our panelists. Thank you.